hello to everyone. For years, the black love image they created together stood as a beacon during a time when marriage frequently felt disposable. But somewhere between loyalty and illusion, something fractured behind the devotion was a man who quietly began unraveling. Now, as rumors swirl about his hesitancy to move forward with the divorce and an entanglement with boxing champion Clarissa Shields, the cracks in the image are starting to widen. However, before we jump into today's video, don't forget to grab something to eat at rognacks.com, an online concession counter, including a variety of freeze-dried treats, butter toffee peanuts from the outdoors, and Applewood smoked bacon jerky. Papoose continues to appear unconcerned, but psychologically, this behavior points to something much more complicated. It is about emotional distress and the silent desperation of who cannot let go of a love that became his sole purpose for being. We must first investigate the idea of identity fusion in order to comprehend Papoose's psychology.
Hold on a minute, let me tell y'all something. Y'all is finna learn something today. Do you hear me? You may not even need to get your degree in psychology after we finish this here series. Okay, y'all buckle up now. Ooh-wee, huh? This is finna be good.
According to social psychologist William B. Swan Jr., identity fusion occurs when an individual's personal identity becomes so tightly tied to a group or relationship that they experience a profound sense of oneness. In these cases, threats to the relationship or group are experienced as threats to the self. Walking away from Remy now would not just feel like a breakup, it would feel like a personal death, a collapse of the narrative he spent over a decade building. During a recent Instagram Live, Remy Ma revealed that despite the deep fracture in their relationship, Papoose remained intensely committed to preserving their public image of black love. She admitted the push present from Papoose when she was pregnant with their daughter was actually paid for with her own money. However, she let the public believe he bought it for her to go along with the image he wanted to portray. According to her, they hadn't shared a bed since 2022 yet. He still clung to the brand they had built together.
Refused to tell people, hey, me and Rem haven't even slept in the same bed since May 2022. You don't want to tell nobody that. You were so wrapped up in the whole black love thing. That was your thing. That was the only thing you had.
This is not solely a psychological issue of denial. Papoose might have an emotional attachment to what the partnership stands for, rather than the connection itself.
I met her. I have written 90% of the rhymes that came out of her mouth.
When someone publicly demonstrates perseverance, commitment, and selflessness for years, the relationship shifts from being about connection to being about identity preservation. In Papoose's case, continuing to portray black love to the world may be his method of keeping control over the narrative, even though the emotional foundation behind it has long eroded. It's not just love he's protecting, it's the role he played in a story that made him feel seen and worthy. However, when two people stop sharing a bed, but one of them continues to broadcast unity, the gap between reality and performance becomes emotionally dangerous. And eventually, it's not just the relationship that fractures, is known as ego attachment, a defense mechanism where the image of the relationship becomes more valuable than the reality of it. As Remy has moved on with battle rapper Easy the Block, Captain and Papoose has moved on with his new girlfriend Clarissa. The person living inside the illusion begins to fall apart, which may be why it reportedly took Papoose so long to hire a divorce lawyer, and why he refused to pick up some of his belongings from their house.
The one that wear the little kitten heels, is that her? That's what you're talking about.
Papoose eventually filed for divorce on May 22, 2025, after Remy exposed all of their problems to the world. However, for a man like Papoose, who has based his entire identity on loyalty, that kind of truth is too harsh to handle. The psychological processes at work here are comparable to what therapists refer to as trauma bonding. While Papoose and Remy had their public moments of unity, a large portion of their bond was formed during the fire of her prison stint. Holding her down while she was incarcerated wasn't just an act of love, it was an act of identity consolidation in standing by her. Trauma bonding occurs when a person develops a deep attachment to someone who is inconsistent, controlling, or emotionally unavailable, frequently as a result of intense highs and lows in the relationship. When Remy shared a very different version of events on her Instagram Live, she said that while she was incarcerated, she continued to pay all the bills. Papoose had access to her accounts, and she was covering the cost of 3 separate apartments for him and his children from previous relationships. Despite this, she looked at Papoose and told herself she could work hard and earn it all back. Papoose gave his life meaning when she returned home, but he simply transferred it into public displays of devotion.
Who this sound like, and y'all may not be old enough to remember this. This sound like what Cher had to go through after Sonny, and what Tina had to go through after Ike.
Let's return to their divorce. Psychologists believe that when a person's identity is strongly linked to a relationship, and that relationship terminates or changes, their ego may enter crisis mode. Papoose's inability to leave things promptly and peacefully can be understood as a classic defense strategy known as denial-based ego preservation. Because the end affects their fundamental sense of self, the individual will oppose closure, not out of love, but because it may later affect their ability to form new relationships. For instance, Clarissa can be the target of emotional residue. Papoose's inability to separate from Remy may not prevent him from starting something new, but it prevents him from giving that new place his whole attention. He may love Clarissa and find pleasure in her company, but he may still be emotionally unavailable because he is still bound to the ghost of a marriage that ended long before the paperwork was filed.
My friend, I would be like, girl, you just turned 30 years old. You are a world champion. You are accomplished. You have made it from out the ghetto, from the slums, from the depths of Flint, Michigan. You don't got no kids. You have your whole life ahead of you. Well, why are you attaching yourself to this 47-year-old man that doesn't have anything going, has no career, no job, no income, except for the income that he's claiming off of you, your percentage, because he's your manager? Got you out here talking, looking crazy.
Legacy attachment is the psychological process of remaining connected to someone, not because of the current emotional bond, but rather because of the investment and identity that have been accumulated over time. This dynamic occurs when a person stays loyal to someone with whom they are no longer emotionally connected. Letting go of Remy is letting go of who Papoose thinks he is. And since so much of his public value was dependent on being her ride or die, he might worry that he won't be relevant without her, as Matthew 6:21 tells us.
Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
The Bible cautions against identifying ourselves with people rather than God. But for Pascal, the value was always loyalty, not just to Remy, but also to the notion that if you loved someone sufficiently, you could redeem them, hold them through their mess, and they would return stronger. Psalm 146:3 states,
Do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save.
when your entire identity is tied to saving someone else, you lose sight of your own need for healing. Amen. Papoose may be operating out of spiritual fatigue, the kind that comes when you pour into someone for years only to find the cup was cracked, and that fatigue doesn't make you walk away. It makes you cling harder to protect the story so no one sees the wound. The relationship with Clarissa may offer comfort and distraction, but until Papoose faces the grief he buried under a mountain of loyalty, he will continue to show up half-present in any new relationship. And Clarissa, if she is emotionally aware, will begin to feel the distance. There is also a gendered layer to this. Men are rarely socialized to process emotional abandonment. They are taught to protect and preserve. But when that protection becomes performative and the perseverance turns into stagnation, they are left with no emotional tools to rebuild. Papoose may have all the loyalty in the world, but without emotional accountability, that loyalty becomes a cage. The way Papoose loves is poetic and devotional, but it also has a subtly tragic quality because it is love that is unable to change and that requires the relationship to stay broken in order to continue, trying to mend it until he realizes that his identity is not based on a title and he mourns the dream rather than holding on to the rubble.